I'm a terrorist, worried about recording it.
Carrie?
I got it in.
All right, we're going to call this meeting to order. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome everybody to the regular state meeting of the Amanda Village Council. Today is August the 2nd, 2021, and the roll call will be answered by Price, Root, Vanoy, Hamilton, Fisher, and I don't know if there's anybody else needs to be on that.
You.
You said no, you will see that Landis and Martin are absent.
I'm going to excuse absence from Landis.
Okay, we're going to move on. The first item is to the approval of minutes. If there isn't any discussion, I would say that everybody has read the minutes. I have one question upon them. And then they can stand and approve as read, or we can go through the motions and pass all that. The one question I got, did the concrete guys show up in June or July that we got over here?
The concrete guy, I talked to him, he will be in here in about 2 weeks.
Okay. But I noticed that sidewalk hadn't been done around
Yes, he called when I was on vacation, and then he told me that he would be in about the second week of August.
Anyone move to approve the minutes?
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, people before council, I see two young men right here, probably want to talk for an hour, right?
5 minutes.
We're going to give you half.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, 5 minutes per person, please.
Go ahead.
I'm here about the school, and I see Mr. Martin's not here to represent the school. Down there on Lutz Avenue, when they pick them kids up, when they block the alley, then they come out and then they park over there across from where he lives, that's no parking on the side of the street. And the thing of it, I work, same shit. I'm trying to go to work, they got the street blocked, you get to the end of the street, the stop sign, you can't even turn right, they got that blocked. Then to the left, I mean, they're down in front of the whole school. I'm not going to mention her name, there's a lady that works at the school. She don't want her name box, so she's still there, hasn't retired. But her nephew is a state trooper and said what they're doing is illegal to block our streets like they do. My dad's 84. So if there's a medical emergency, 1 second could be life or death. You know, who's that going to fall on? I'm going to be suing somebody. I don't think, I mean, we live there, we pay our taxes. I mean, the school's got 2% of our money now. They need to figure out something. I brought it to their attention when they first built the new school, there wasn't that many walkers. Walkers is, you're supposed to live in the village, but now everybody wants to pick the kids up. I mean, that's great if you can, but it makes it a hassle. They used to let them out in the big lot off of Oak Street. You know, you go pick the kids up, you didn't sign them out back in, you just pick them up left. Well, they don't want to do that because of the buses, but walkers and boys released early lines at school, so they let them out a little earlier and say, tell parents you got to be here by a certain time to get them. They got plenty of room in that parking lot to keep them off our streets. I mean, they're just tearing the alley up and they're bringing it up into the new paved road, just making a mess everywhere. I mean, it's not safe if they're doing one of the kids when you hit when they go up through there, or worse, not worse, but I mean, I'm worried they're going to pull out in front of me, not see me, and I'm trying to squeeze in between them and then the people who live there with the parked cars. How do I get to work? I shouldn't have to rearrange my schedule to get to work because they're there, or if you're coming back from Lancaster, there's a, the time it is, I gotta get there real quick just so you can get down the street. That's just congested. It's not safe when you do it. So I hope we can come together. And I talked to JV before I talked to Brooke Marshall when she was the principal. And I gave them that suggestion, but then I never heard nothing back about it.
Well, what's your name?
Brian Bishop.
Brian, please know that we've had meetings with them as well.
Oh, I bet.
And And I even brought up the same suggestion to him. I said, why can't you hold the walkers until after the buses leave and then bring those cars in?
Right.
We're at a big standstill with it. We have been back and forth with them, and provided that you came and, said this, we can bring it back to them and tell them again, you would like us to.
Because I work seconds, that's like she mentioned, sort of mentioned to me, like the school board, but I'm usually at work, because fortunately, we're shut down right now because of parts shortages, so I can come. I gotta get it out there, but put it off with it every summer, they're not there, and I'm like, it's just like, here we go, it's just.
Okay, so can you tell me your address or?
332 East Woods Avenue, I'm diagonal from third base of the ball diamond behind the school.
Okay.
So you got a house in between me and like where Jeff Duke lives.
So you're talking primarily from School Street, clear down basketball field.
Yeah, like they're not down there, it's when you get up to the alley, and
Just
then
get through.
yeah, they didn't even
The alley to-
they just started, I think, last year using the alley. They never used it, next people live in it, never used the alley. Yeah, it's congested. But like I said, if there's even an emergency, someone's in trouble, you're not getting down through there.
I know when I used to go pick my kid up, there's a parking zone on one side, and people park over the other side, where there's no parking.
Yeah, you probably,
Where you could not literally get down that street.
yeah, now they won't pull up to that curb. See, what they do is they have a two-way radius, someone stand over the alley, well, so-and-so is here, they don't have them come over, they have like collared cones, they'll have maybe up to 5 vehicles sitting there, but he lives right on the alley, and there's usually 2 or 3 vehicles sitting on that side of the road. I don't know what they're doing, they just sit there.
Okay, do you live, and what's your name again?
My name's Justin. I live at 314 Lutz.
And you're on the east side of the alley, correct?
I don't know.
He's on the west side of the alley.
Tan house.
Yeah.
Not the yellow one.
Well, if you come down the alley, he will be on your left as you get right to Lutz Avenue.
Now, are you guys on both sides of the alley? I don't know.
No, I'm down past, I'm like,
He's on the other house, so
I
you're down.
gotta drive up to get to his house, but he's right there on the alley where they're all at. Because like one lady, I don't know, I didn't see her as much last year, but she was sitting in that alley 45 minutes an hour before they even got. I'm like, well, I didn't tell me, Sandra, you ain't parking, you got to go somewhere.
She's still there now?
I don't know if she'll be there this year, not sure if her Dodge ran, but she was there early, like,
The
damn.
lady that I brought up when I came to the
Oh, yeah,
meeting.
so she was always
We got
there.
there an hour early, and I asked her about it. And they did decide to push the traffic back to the bend of the alley. That way, people that got there early, this, that, and the other thing, weren't sitting right beside my window with the idling vehicle works areas on, things like that. So that did help.
Is that still there?
What's that?
That cone, is it still there where they can't make the bend in the alley?
The teachers were putting it up like during, but then I think the regular drive-off people, the parents, there's consistency. You can tell who's gonna be there first, and I think they just kinda got used to it. But every now and then, someone will get there earlier, creep through, and then park right by my house, and the teachers have told them, like, no, pull back around, you stop at the corner or the bend. But it's, even when they, that helps that they're not sitting there, but at the same time, once they start funneling them through, they all do push up, and then they are parked right beside my house. And I brought in a video last year of, a lady, I could hear her blaring, I were playing TV through her car with the windows up, through the wall of my house and over my TV. I could make out the lyrics to the song. And I walked out, tapping on the window and said, hey, would you mind turning it down, please, so I can hear it inside my house? She just kind of gave me a half-cocked look and turned the radio down and went back up. But then it's the Honda Civic with park cams on the back of them, sitting there idling, the diesel trucks, I mean, those things shake your house. And I work different shifts, and, I'm between 2 houses. So it's like an echo chamber. I mean, it literally just reverberates from house to house, and you can hear everything inside my house. So that's the part that I don't like about it. It did help that they pushed it back, but once they do start releasing them, they're all right there anyway. Granted, it only lasts 10 minutes. But to his point is when they do pull up to that curbside where the cones are, that road is wide enough to fit 3 vehicles, okay? You've got the residential on-street parking on the right side, you have a center lane, and then you have the curb lane. So technically, it's 2-way traffic. But they pull the parents up to the curb, the only natural place for them to go when they're coming out is right. So they go into the center, so now you got 2 rows of traffic going that way, and then you got people parking on the curb. So essentially 3 rows of road is all going in one direction. So if you come off of School Street, you can't get up there. You can't. I forced my way down the road just because I not that I was trying to be a jerk about it, but if I saw an opening, I would slowly go through there. But my God, the teachers give you the look like you're the darn devil for trying to get up. It's like, I just have a right to get to my property. I don't have a kid picking up from school, I'll be darned if I'm gonna sit there in that school traffic just to get to my house. I'm not going to. So it's a cluster, and I was telling him before we got here, is my son gashed himself with a razor knife when we were renovating the house. I had to rush to the Dollar General to get something to treat him with, and by the time I got home, that's when the traffic was there. I couldn't get up the road. I was ticked. It was like, that was just a minor medical emergency. I know everyone from beyond me now is all over it, except for probably Jeff Duper. But like you said, heaven forbid, you need to get squat after you won't. You can't.
No one sees it unless you live there, or if you're driving, you're trying to get out of town, you're driving by, most people aren't going to see it. But they're trying to say, preach safety, but you know what a kid's going to do? I mean, that little sucker can dart around the vehicle, they probably try to load a butt sucker, you know that little kid's going to dart around and end up in front of the vehicle there. I've had them almost block right, I've almost hit them, you know, because they don't see, because they're thinking, well, they're going to get coming, we're sitting here parked, the teachers are guiding this traffic, but you do have those residents that are still trying to get through their towns.
I would like to say, I believe it was March, we went and spoke with Mrs. Marshall and Mr. Dick, and that's when the cone was put out. I feel like they are somewhat receptive to working with us and trying to remedy this situation, but also somewhat stuck on there's no other alternative. At this point, in my opinion, that we are willing to work with residents, and perhaps a suggestion would be that myself and residents go to a board meeting and ask them to consider different options. I know at this point of the school year, it's probably not going to happen unless there's some serious action at a board meeting or to the superintendent. Just my opinion, it's not fact. Just from my experience with orientation and pickup and drop off, I know with COVID they had a lot more traffic. That does not remedy your situation, what I'm saying. It's just what I've observed. And I'm going to hope there's less traffic now that COVID is at a different rate and different amount of people being transported by way of their mom, dad, or personal caretaker. Hopefully there's more on the bus. I'm willing to work with residents and school and do something to make the situation better. I'm willing to hear ideas and willing to take action in any way that we can. And I also sent out an email to Mr. Dick about a month ago and asked him to explore some options. And at this point, he's not exploring options, different options.
If I can interject.
Please.
Where does he get the authority to say what the village does with their streets? And by streets, I use that term loosely. That's an alley. That's never meant to be a high traffic area or road. That is designed to be an access for probably 6 residents on the alley to get to the back of their house or the garages. And that's it. It's not meant to be a funnel of high traffic. Right? And what gives him the authority to say no? I mean, the school owns plenty of property over there. I feel like they can find a way to utilize their own property instead of putting the burden on the residents of the road.
Now, is the alley township or village? Or is it like half and half?
The village, the alley's in the village.
That's
Okay.
The village is, the alley is in the village.
Township.
From the alley on out is the township.
After the alley is township.
Yep.
Alley is ours. I just wanted
The
to
alley
be
is
clear.
the villages.
Yeah.
I tell you another thing, they park in that darn alley. I was down there doing something, and I told Carrie, 45 minutes or an hour before school's letting out, they're in that alley. And I didn't even know, I mean, I know they told them they couldn't park clear out to Boot Street. I didn't even think about it. I had to ban, and I went around there, I got back in the corner, and this is half an hour, 45 minutes before school lets out. You couldn't even get around the corner. I had to back all the way out. There's no reason for them people to be there
Yeah.
45 minutes before school's going out for them kids.
It's hard for Midwest truck drivers when they block, so I'm glad you brought that point up. Tell me that, what right do they have to tell us?
And the traffic is out on School Street. You got people trying to come in, you can't get through because they're backed up both directions. You got cars coming from different directions. It's a mess.
Council and service superintendent, what can we?
The whole thing about it is, I think the school should operate on school property.
That's my opinion.
And if you think about it, the school should operate on school property, not operate on the village.
They have no authority to either alter traffic flow or dictate traffic pattern on a public street.
And we have been to them enough times to say, hey, look, can you guys,
Yeah.
we've done that enough.
And so I
Well,
didn't.
at some point, I think what the council's gonna have to do is try to say, you're gonna have to find something, we're not gonna allow you to have a traffic stop on our streets blocking it where people can't get through.
I recall when they first started this 3 years ago, it was on a trial basis. Trial's over.
That's what you
Well,
told me.
was, and then they said, okay, because that was the route that they chose.
So council, what can we do to be, you know,
Can we-
forward moving?
Can we send a letter of cease and desist or perhaps from our attorney, something of that nature that says, hey, you know, some sort of, you, effective immediately, you need to stop using this alley for, you know, parking and drop off.
Because it was, I've lived there on that street since 1985. So I consider that my block, to be honest with you. Been there that long, you know, I went to look, his house down, we're all right. The other end of the street is like, you know, it's pretty bad.
Well, I'm just up around the corner from you, so I see it, so
Yeah.
I'm just right over by
But
Midwest.
the alley was never, it's never been used. Now, my neighbor that has an RV, he goes up there, now there's been times he's tried to get in and out with it, and he's stuck that big old RV because they're right there.
Well, there's times you can't even turn left onto School Street from
Right.
Lutz the
No,
other
you
way.
can't. I have to go right, I have to make sure anybody comes, I go to the opposite lane to get around all them people just to go.
It seems like when my kids were in school there, maybe they did something out front, and traffic got congested, don't get me wrong, but I don't think it impeded, people's ability to access their
I thought
residence.
they could do that in the front, but then we're gonna, it wouldn't be as bad, but then you'd still have, we'd be lined up there down School Street waiting to get down and pick them up in front of school. We got more length there, but, and the road's wider than drive, but then you'd still have people, you know, parked everywhere, and that would be good.
I think one thing we could consider, but it's not gonna be too popular with the residents, is to make that whole street a no parking zone from 8 AM to 4 PM. But then, like I said,
Well,
limits these guys'
The
ability.
the only issue I would have with that is I'm the one house in that area that does not have a driveway or.
Or parking from the rear.
Or could we just do residents, because that's what I told myself, I lived up there, you know, I would have brought it up, residents only, and there'd be signs down
I
through
don't
there.
think you can, though. I don't think
Really?
legally you
That was
can
actually gonna be my next point.
for a resident.
That was gonna be my.
Because it's a public street.
Yes, correct.
Because it would be past you get home, like, I guess why the one guy went on the alley that had, I don't know if he used a wheelchair or whatnot, but I think they ran him out of that house, because he'd get home arguing till he couldn't even get in front of his house to park, you know, because he had wheelchair stuff to use to get out.
Now, the parking lot down past that by the ball field isn't realistically large enough to park.
No, as we talked about, no, because they used to park here, but it gets to where they used to pull in, Mrs. Muffet passed away. They'd be up in her yard, I mean, rutting it, and I mean, they were all.
The only way that you could do it is to widen that entrance and exit.
Well, you still ain't enough parking, but you don't think you've lived in town long enough to remember when they, behind the, did you go to Amanda?
Yeah, and I've only been there since '68, so.
Oh, well, then my bad. You take that back. But you remember we had the softball field that butted up to like the basketball hoops and all that, that was all a flat area, but now they got the big runoff, which I understand you gotta have that for water and all that coming off the school. I mean, or else that could have been, you know, lay something right there, you know.
So you used to
That'd
take
be-
the buses through there.
Yeah, they did. It used to be a-
Back door.
yeah, it used to be a
The
little-
buildings were structured so much different. than-
Right.
Well, there was a driveway that went right between there,
I
yeah.
think some of the root of the problem is the kids that should be riding buses are not riding buses.
Correct.
More
That's
parents
why
are
I'm
home.
hopeful
More
to change a
parents
little
are home
this
to
year.
take their
And that
kids to
was-
school. and pick
I'm
them up.
sorry, if your kid can ride the bus, put
That
them on
was,
the bus.
that was one of the issues with
With-
JB. JB told us he actually wanted kids to ride the bus because of the funding.
Yeah, they lose a
It
lot of
costs,
money.
it costs the school money when they don't ride the bus.
Yeah.
Because they have to take a head count,
Yeah,
and the state gives them so much money for each child.
They have to be on the
bus.
bus. So I know Ronnie Hill used to ride the bus, and he said they have to be on the bus in the morning. If they ride the bus at home, they don't do a head count, so they don't get funding from, they gotta be on it in the morning.
Shar, is it in the village's, legal right to draft a resolution to make that no parking or parking for residents only? I mean, I know it's,
residential parking only.
I know it's a public
Parking only
street.
sounds-
For that, for where?
Just
I
that
have to
street.
check the attorney, but I don't think you can make it, be it a public street.
Yeah.
It's taxpayer money that puts that street in, I don't think you can say that just certain people can park there.
And I think making that residential parking only is not going to flow traffic, people can drive out and have to get in and out. And using the same route of getting the
Okay,
kids dropped
so
off.
no parking between 8 and 9 and no parking between 3 and
He's not, like where he lives, he's not.
But they won't consider that
Like where
parking,
he'd be
like drop
parked
off
at.
and pick up.
So to answer Dave's question to answer Dave's question first, if we were to do a resolution, then there's the enforcement part of it, which can be a work in process, and it may deter some of the issues. How do you all feel about that? Like, just looking at one thing at a time so that we can go forward and trying to take some kind of action.
By resolution, you mean no parking or residents-only parking?
Residents only.
I would need more information, like as Ben mentioned. Can we do that? You know, if we can do that, if it didn't provide more problems for the residents, I'd support it, but where I grew up, we had no parking from 8 to 4 on the street we were on, and it was a pain, believe me,
Especially you live there, that's the only place you park, no one parks really now, they park out front, which makes sense, because there's sidewalks there, you go in the house and all that.
Yeah, I just think if you're leaving that street for parking for residents only, but you're still funneling all that traffic through the alley and through, and they're still having a problem getting to the houses.
Yeah,
from
we
the
need,
houses.
yeah, it's that alley, right, that alleyway and all
It's
that.
not the parking, it's the influx of cars through there at certain times of hours, so it'd just be nice, it'd be nice if we can work and stagger the pickup walkers and the buses, so they can use that big parking lot that the buses use. There's more room to funnel through, it's in a private parking lot, no cars are going in and out, and then have the buses do their thing before or after.
Stagger start's a great idea.
I mean, they started last year, they shortened the school day last year because of virtual learning. I mean, they can shorten the day or shorten this or shorten that for walkers.
That's
I
a
mean,
great idea.
I'm not in the school district.
Yeah.
I don't know the moving parts of that or how inconvenient that is, but I mean,
Yeah, because I think the trade-off is gonna be, if we limit parking on that street, then it's gonna congest School Street in front of the school.
I just feel like if there's a way to start the parent pickup, walkers, and the buses and use that same parking lot, like I said, I know it's easier.
We owe it to the
said than done,
residents
but-
that that's a safety issue.
My concern with giving the school ideas and making suggestions is it puts some of that on us. And I would also, some of the, I don't know about liability, but I could see where they're gonna come back and say, well, we can't do it for this or that, or, I'm of the mindset that we just flat out say you can't use this alley.
Agreed.
And figure something else.
And then where they're not parking there super long, but where they're parking at is a no parking side of the street. I mean, so they're breaking it, I mean, they're doing what they're supposed to do, is not follow the law right there.
Right.
There's signs down through there.
And if we were to send a letter or something saying, cease and desist using the alley, and if you are taking up if you're parking people on the no parking side of the street, I think our only course would be to have the sheriff enforce it.
That's if they even do that, so that'd be the thing.
I like that. They should be able to, if you're parking illegally. If you're parking illegally.
I'm still the guy that says the school should use the school property.
And I would agree wholeheartedly.
Use that big
I
parking.
agree with Dwayne.
I do too.
Yeah.
The school has no authority over us, allowing them to have to use that alley and street.
Yeah.
The school can use their school property. It's been done long enough, and I've listened to enough people tell me about this.
They just have to stagger things to make it work. They
Yeah.
can do it.
I agree, we
Yeah.
don't need to tell them how to stagger or what to do,
Just
although
let
these
them
are great
figure it out.
ideas, we can, definitely do the cease and desist, so.
Just tell them, they can no longer do. park on the
Okay,
street and-
so now how do we do this?
Yeah.
We know what the problem is, we know what we want to see happen, how do we react to it?
I'll make a motion that we draft a cease and desist letter to the school stating that that alley, that road is not to be used for dropping off or picking up children. That they need to come up with a solution for school property.
Could I make a suggestion?
Yes.
Why don't we devise a letter explaining to them what our situation is and saying that you have so many days to rectify it, maybe or whatever, and then if they don't, and then if you do not, then we will order a
Be
cease and
forced
desist.
to.
Be forced to do
Give them
that.
like, what, 30 days?
But here's the
The city
thing,
devise a new plan.
how many times have they already been talked to? about this, and they've not devised a
Because
plan.
I've called,
But they
JB
never,
sometimes.
we
will
asked them
work
to,
with you,
but they never.
Right, and they didn't do anything, so if we ask them to again, I don't think they're gonna do anything again. I think the only thing they're gonna understand is a letter saying, no more public property,
And I
you're on your
did
own.
email him a month ago and ask, can we explore different options?
And your response was,
At this point, we are not going to explore other
Are
options.
you, are they more receptive of email than letter? I'm just,
I would
For
say,
me and my community.
I'm just thinking on their end, the time crunch for school starting, how long the letter's gonna take to get out home, how long it's gonna take to get in their hands, and, I mean, I do wanna work with them a little bit, because we do
Sure,
work together.
we're building relations, yeah.
They do let us use their facilities for things, I'm not saying
Yeah.
it's right or wrong, I mean, I just think it'd be more respectful to have a conversation, or shoot an email, and say, hey,
No, I would agree to have a conversation. I'd have a conversation.
I just don't want, I don't want to blindside and just send a letter from the lawyer or something, you know what I mean, just say, hey, this is what we're doing, this is the problems we're having on multiple occasions, it is a safety issue.
Yeah.
But it sounds like we've tread on that property before and it's not gotten.
I think our emails and stuff before was like, can we explore different options? Now we're going and saying, hey, this is no longer an option, you have to figure something out, but I just feel like a respectful way to do it would be better than just, that's just my
And
opinion.
and I guess Brooke stepped down, she's not principal, so there's gonna be a new principal, and then I don't know who that is. So I went to Brooke, growing up, I'm like, maybe she can help me out here, you know,
Yeah,
and
we
she's
did
like,
too.
this is what we have, I'm like, come on, you know?
So there is a motion, but there is also discussion, and I am in agreement with you in my 2 cents here. I like building relations with
Yeah.
the village,
I'm on-
township,
Yeah.
and school, and different, business council. I like to continue an amiable relationship. I also like to make sure our constituents are not frustrated in case of emergency. The elderly are being served if there's emergency vehicles that need access, and we are under a time crunch with school coming up. So I'm kind of conflicted because I did reach out in July, but I did not reach out in a way that said, hey, we may be forced to take action if we don't explore different options. So I like a compromise. What are your thoughts about a compromise and your thoughts since you made a motion?
Well, first of all, on the motion, we have to have, I know we're in the discussion phase, but if we don't have a second, my motion will die anyways. So if you want to rush into that and there being no second, then we can just continue discussion of something else.
I do like his aggressiveness, though.
so do I, so.
I mean, I understand both points, but I mean,
I
we
get
have
it.
talked to him how many times over the years, I mean, now it's like,
Yeah, it doesn't sound
We've
like
gotta do it.
making any headway by being nice.
right.
Okay.
I'll second the motion.
I have a motion and a second.
Question?
Yep, more discussion.
Do you want this to be drawn up by our solicitor to make it more?
Yes, I heard.
Would it also be sent certified mail so we verify receipt?
Anything that we send like that, we totally.
So, my question is, what's the time? I know my way seems nicer, but my way also seems quicker to get in contact with them, so it might be resolved a lot quicker than waiting on certified letter, waiting on, I don't know, that's just my mindset, if there's a second, so. I just feel like if an email or a phone call can be done tomorrow, rather than getting a hold of the solicitor, spending money on doing that.
Okay,
And
so.
then waiting for a certified letter.
So since we're still in discussion, you can make a motion to amend my motion and reword it if you like.
Why can't we do both?
There you go.
I mean, I see where he's coming from, because you're getting on it more if they respond back, but then we're already ready to rock and roll with his, with the.
But we can get a hold of them right away and say, that effective at this date, we can no longer do it. So it's not gonna be any longer, any shorter than drafting something up.
So what do you think about the 30-day window, Nick?
If that doesn't work, then
And then
you would have the attorney draw something.
I just feel like we can get it done quicker just by saying, hey, with a phone call, email, this is the problem we're having. I know school's coming up. We can get home tomorrow rather than 2 weeks from now when school starting and saying, hey, now you gotta change the traffic plan the day after school started.
Yeah, that's a good
Which they've
idea.
done that before,
Yeah,
they've
save
changed
money on
that.
the solicitor if they
I would
respond.
say, I'll just be like, you know, take a little buggy down the street and take
Yeah.
the kids to school, especially if you live in the village.
Yeah. I like that.
Mostly because I don't like being in that line, especially if you don't like to bring it up.
Giving in the notice and I'm sorry. And that's good. No, you're president. And it continues to build that rapport, and that 30 days can be served, but we are not blindsiding him, but we're letting him know we mean business.
I mean, 30 days is 30 days, but I have a feeling, I can't speak for them, but if I was in a position where I had school starting in a few weeks, I think I'd find a solution before the 30 days, because I don't want to start something and then it be bang.
Yeah,
Okay.
knowing we're gonna take action.
Okay, so you guys want to come together on a motion?
I'm trying to think, who would contact JB or the school, or who's the best person to contact? Is it, would it be JB?
Yeah,
Would it be the best person, since we don't need it?
yeah, I can email him.
So you don't have to get to the secretary there or nothing?
No, I
I
email
always
him
call
directly, I
her.
email him on Sundays, and,
They-
no, I
they
email him
call
about
back.
anything.
I just, if they're responsive on the emails or getting a hold of someone in the district, I think it'd be a lot quicker and more respectful just to give them a heads up than
Yeah,
just
I'll-
try to get a hold of our solicitor, have them draft something up, have it approved by council or however that is.
Yeah, and it saves money for the
Get it
schools,
sent
you know,
out.
I like doing that. Yeah.
Okay, so here it is.
All right,
You and I will propose it from the.
Somebody-
you guys make the motion.
No, somebody give me exactly what we're going to do so we can have it recorded.
You've got a motion on the floor in a second, so you're gonna have to act on that motion. Now,
You either gotta vote that.
you're either gonna have to vote it down, or you're gonna have to accept it before you can go on, really.
But Nick wants to amend it, can I?
Well, he's gonna have to make a motion, somebody might have to second that, if they're gonna amend that, or,
Yes.
I really think the proper way probably is to vote on the first motion and the
Okay.
second.
Okay.
And then,
make
if
it-
that doesn't carry, then go make another motion to do that.
Dave, repeat your motion.
Okay, so my motion originally was to send a cease and desist letter to the school to limit the amount of traffic and parking on loose.
It's Price's motion, and
I'll second.
Mr. Hamilton seconded it. So all in favor? You want to amend it? We can amend your motion and second it, and
That would technically pass then.
Technically,
Well,
passed.
you technically passed it, already passed it, well, he's good for it.
You just passed what he wanted to pass, because there's 3, 4, so there's no way to, I mean,
She's a tiebreaker, obviously.
So the thing is, look, now you're always, unless they withdraw the motion, I'd say you're pretty much stuck going through the attorney.
okay.
We're all learning together again, aren't we?
I don't, guys, I don't mean to sound like a bad person for doing this, but I know, before I got on council, I know he had an issue with the same thing, basically. You came to council before. And I've known in the past, there were people that have, when I was on council years ago, back in 2006, people were coming with that same. So in the span of, what, 15 years, we've still had the same problem, and by being nice, we've got to nowhere other than making our residents angry because they cannot access our homes.
Agreed, and we are here for change. This is a council that's going forward, and if we have to make big change, loud change, and straightforward change to get action, that's what we'll do.
Guys, thanks for coming.
That
Thank
wasn't
you.
mine, that was his.
And Nora, I'm sort of in retirement, so, I mean, they're in their age, my dad did before, he had a problem till last year, cirrhosis of the liver, never drank alcohol. He gets that blood coming up, I don't know, you have to call somebody, if it's them, it's like, yeah, you ain't get through there.
there's a safety, not to go down the streets.
All right, so next, we're going to try to keep it under 5 minutes.
Mine is, we kind of touched base on one already, that was I was going to ask for a permission to do residential parking only in front of my house. I will pay for the signs, I'm not asking for the village to incur any cost or anything like that. My concern is during basketball season, the parents just can't seem to want to be 50 feet further away and use the parking lot. They want to use in front of my house, and I can't park in front of my own house. But again, reiterating, I don't have any parking behind my house. That's not the way it was built. It's forced me to put in a driveway and parking lot for, we don't have, so I just don't have it. That's my only parking place. I'm willing to spend money on signs if you guys are willing to let me do it.
I'd look into the walls of that.
Yeah.
Before it's just,
I mean, that's all I
I
ask.
thought there was something that with public streets, you can't do that, but I can't say yes or no. So-
I know you have a legal right to access your property, but that legal right doesn't extend to you being, encroaching on other people's legal rights to access a public street.
Because I mean, there's
But I'm not stopping from using the street, I was,
Right.
you know,
I mean, you
that
could
is.
ask Corbin, so talk to him about this.
So maybe the cease and desist letter can cover extracurriculars also.
Well, I don't know that, you know, I like where you're at, but I think if extracurriculars, if they're just parking on a public street, I think that's gonna be tough.
Yeah.
Versus, you know, don't use the alleyway and all that sort of thing. I think it's gonna be hard to make that case. And I think, I like what Ben said, check with maybe Corbin, the attorney, and see, is this something we
Just
can
ask you to
do?
try it. If-
Yeah.
If all of that fails, at the very least, maybe contact the principal, maybe Charlotte, something you can do.
Sure.
And just say, hey, when you guys send out these letters for basketball signups, this, that, and the other thing, can you please put, I don't care if it's its own separate page. I don't want it to be in fine writing at the bottom.
Yeah.
Do not park in front of the residents. Just don't.
I'm willing to
Because
do
there's
that.
plenty of room in that parking lot.
There's plenty of room.
There is.
I'm a basketball parent drop off, so I'll make sure parking's in.
You know, I've seen it parked directly in front of your house.
Yeah, I just-
Where did he say?
I don't know, that's free time. So Carrie, you know what we were trying
Yes.
to ask for, you can figure that out?
Yes.
Thank you.
Corbin?
My other issue would be, and I printed it off, I forgot to bring it, shame on me, but what we have on the Amanda Village page about good neighbor, this, that, the other thing. Noise ordinance. Jeff Dupler, my God. I mean, yes.
The restaurant?
Yes. I mean, it started out as just a soloist and I'm sorry if I said, it started out as just a soloist strumming the guitar, and now it's full-blown concert venue.
Unfortunately, they're not in the
They're in the
village.
village, they're not in township.
Townships.
So you don't have to, you'd have to almost go to Man Township. 'cause you don't
Yeah,
really have
is
to
that
picture it.
the second
I
Monday
guess I
of the
don't
month?
understand.
Same as.
No, it's
I can tell
weird. Yeah, like I said, you get past the alley on School Street, that's
That's
township.
township.
Now, the other side of the street is village, it's weird. And so-
Yeah,
It's Amanda Village and Amanda Township.
Yeah.
The line splits right down the middle of that street.
Okay.
No matter how.
And I will say-
Skating rink and all that.
His backyard might be,
It might be,
if you walk far enough back in that field, it's township.
yeah.
Have you had a conversation with him personally?
I had a vulgar text message with him the other night. Let him, gave him a piece of my mind. It was a short message, I just said it was BS. Because I'd sent him one message at 10 o'clock, because normally his music shuts off at 10.
Yeah.
And it's usually not that loud thumping music, like I said, normally it's just a soloist and a guitar. That doesn't bother me. But when I can feel my house shaking for 5 hours, and I can hear the lyrics and bass and everything of their band over top of my TV.
That drives me nuts.
That is now twice as loud, because I usually listen to my TV on level 10 volume, I had to listen to it on level 20 the other night, and could still tell you the lyrics to the song.
I think they did have a big.
I was
band.
livid.
It's packed, I drove by from out of town.
And I sent him a text message at about 10 o'clock, because normally they shut off at 10. I sent him a message at like 10:15, I said, hey Jeff, I said, it's after 10. I said, are you guys gonna turn it down anytime soon? And he responded back to me at about 5 minutes till 11, saying they're on their last song. And I said, thank effing God. Just because I was, like I said, I was fit to be tight.
All right, let's let him know the dates, the next date of the next township meeting. Does anybody?
Second Monday. Second Monday.
Okay, so this is the first Monday, so next week,
Next
next Monday.
Monday.
Do you know where they meet at?
Nope.
Okay, on 22. There's a white building, it's on the left-hand side going towards Circleville, approximately a half mile out of town.
8,000 Cincinnati Zanesville Road.
Across
So
from
it's,
Page's Produce.
It's on the right going towards Circle.
Yeah.
It's on the right, I'm sorry.
Yes, on the right.
Oh, Green Pages and Page's Produce.
Yeah, it is,
It's just a
yeah.
white pole.
So the all,
Yes.
So 8,000 is that?
Yes.
8,000?
You know that page.
You'll see the parking lots.
You can't miss it, they have like wagon and stuff out there on the road.
Right,
It's
thank
not
you.
all-
Mr. Hamilton?
So in relationship to this, I believe when we were at the township meeting, a similar issue came up. I believe the counties have a noise ordinance, the county has a noise ordinance on the books, right? That
That's what I
maybe,
was trying to find.
that might be a 10 or 11, I don't remember. A similar issue was, very similar was happening at
Yes.
the township. And so depending on what that ordinance is, if it was 10 or 11, whatever that cutoff is, I mean, before it, unfortunately, your hands are kind of tied, but once that cutoff happens, the sheriff would enforce that.
Okay.
So,
Let me ask this, since I'm just gonna play the devil's advocate, and since I'm technically in the village.
you're a
if
county
nothing can be done-
resident.
I'm a county resident, but, if nothing can be done on the county level, and I just feel the need to fight fire with fire, what is our noise ordinance? Because it's not clearly disclosed in our good neighbor policy. It just says no noise will be tolerated at any time of day.
Yeah, we don't have a
No matter how-
decibel level.
You can access it now on our website. I don't remember what ordinance number it is, but
The thing is,
I'm pretty
that's not-
sure it was in.
It's carrying over from.
But it's coming from the village
Four,
residents, I don't know if we
five.
would have any authority to enforce it.
Yeah, we could.
But if I wanted to just put on some really loud Christian music or some really loud orchestra music at a really obscene decibel level and fire it back his way.
It says this, the hinders the sensibilities, I forget how it's worded. So it's basically, if just one person's complaining, no, two people, yes.
I think I would go to the township and see if they can maybe address it.
And that's why I'm trying to do things on the nice. I don't want to.
Now, who's on the township though? Is that?
I got more
is that-
Pontius, Ralph Hedrick,
Yeah,
Ralph
so we
Hedrick,
looked that up on,
Jimmy?
on the website.
and Jimmy Henson.
Yeah.
Through.
I was saying, it's gonna be the good old boys and they stick together.
It's Jimmy Henson, Ralph Hedrick, and Mark Pontius.
You know, that's my favorite term. So, I don't want to seem like I'm being brief or cutting off, but we do want to continue. And it's in our,
They're to the new.
what is it, a resolution that everybody before council is supposed to stay at 5 minutes, and I'm terrible at keeping it at 5 minutes.
I got the answer anytime.
Okay, and we do want to help in any way. Reach out, please. I'm so thankful you both are here, and we will be active, and we will be going forward, and we will be helpful.
Hey, you hit it, I'll come with this one, I'm off now.
Well, I'm gonna come at with this and, you know, try a nice approach, but then I understand fighting with fire.
And while I'm sitting here,
Quickly,
let's
please.
let him across the street. I'm picking. I know we ain't got money, but man, with the road, like it's tore up over here in the street. Right by Don's house, like on the other side of his building. Yeah, over here, I'm picking.
The gas department had a gas leak on their main, and they dug it up. They'll come back in and spray. They usually, they're probably waiting on it to try to settle a little bit, and then they'll come back in.
I just seen it, what goes on there?
Okay, what's next on our agenda, President? Pro Tem?
I'm sorry, I kept up.
Thank you guys, and I hope you understand. we're watching this.
Okay?
Okay,
You're welcome to
well,
stay or quietly leave.
to start with.
Thank you guys.
Appreciate it. Most of you are probably aware, we had a fairly major issue down there on Main Street. That box culvert that goes underneath Main Street, underneath the old railroad and stuff, started to collapse. So, you know, it would be on, they told me on Sunday, Ralph called me on Sunday night, somebody stopped at his house and said, hey, there's a big sinkhole. So I went up, sure enough, I mean, it was about 4.5, 5 foot deep, and yay around, so we put cones and stuff around it, so the next morning, of course, I'm leaving on vacation, but I called Mac Cabell out at Trading, and he came in, and I had Don meet with him, and they just kept calling me back and forth when I was on the road, but anyways, we got that taken care of. But what the problem was, it's starting to show signs underneath Main Street that it could be an issue. And they don't think it's something that's gonna happen today or tomorrow, but it's also starting to show signs that it's beginning to deteriorate and start to go in. So, what I had to do is it was definitely going back underneath the old railroad to drive, we go back into the lagoons and stuff. So, we had them put new 48-inch pipe all the way up to Main Street and stop there for now. So, they did an excellent job too. I wasn't here, but I'm gonna tell you that everything I've seen and what I saw when I got back, those guys did an excellent job for us. I mean, they came in as quickly as they could, they got the materials, they got in here, they worked, they had it done like 2 or 3 days after they
I was
started.
so impressed
And it
with
was
that.
12 foot deep, is what they had to go. So they had to use a trench box and everything else. So now I don't know how much it's gonna cost. I called Pat this morning. I was hoping he would have me a bill so I could at least tell you what it was gonna cost. But he didn't have all the prices on the materials and everything yet, so he couldn't really He was gonna try to give me something back, but I didn't see anything or hear anything from him tonight. So I don't know how much that's gonna cost us. Now, the next step is, this is gonna be my suggestion to council. Instead of reapplying for that grant money that we was gonna apply for Light Street, we, talking with Alan Brown, and I had Alan Brown in here also when this was going on. He thinks we can probably get the grant money to go underneath Main Street with that culvert. Now that thing is, we're talking big time bucks, what, 380,000 or something like that?
Everybody's
You
got
guys
a
probably
copy of the
have
box.
it. So, but, now that's his estimate. I don't know that it'll be that estimate.
Is it Alan Brown's estimate?
That's Alan Brown's estimate. That's, what he figures materials and everything's gonna cost, that's what he estimated. Now, of course, obviously, we have to put that out for bid. I talked to Pat Trayton, asked him, said, Pat, would you be interested in trying to bid on it? He is gonna bid on it. I think, Pat said he can't see it costing anything near it. Of course, you know, he's gonna give us a better price probably than somebody else will. But,
We have to be a
my suggestion is rather than apply for that grant for Light Street this year, which we have to do like in October, correct?
And then we would find out by February if we got it for next year.
Right.
Was Lights just repaving?
That was
Yes.
repaid. It was, and we got denied. See, we put in for it last year, we got denied. We were gonna resubmit it in October. So I would think this needs to move to the top of the list. I would hate like heck to go down there sometime and if we said, oh, well, it might last another 4 or 5 years. Well, I don't know that, you don't know that, no one knows that for sure. But if we get down there and that thing caves in underneath Main Street and the pavement falls in, somebody, big truck or something goes through there and falls down in that hole, we've got a mess. We've got problems. So now that we know that it's beginning to look like it could be an issue, I think we need to put that on the top of the list and try to get the funding for that. Alan seemed to think that we would not have any issues because of the need to get that
And
replaced.
we've done a Band-Aid on it about 6 or 7 years ago when we had a little bit of an issue before we kind of fixed it.
And I
It
didn't,
apparently didn't fix good.
So do we need a motion to do that then?
Yeah, I think it's just.
I'll make a motion to switch the Lights Street repairs request to West Main Culvert request for grant funding. OPWC funding.
The only other thing that I want to add on that, since we don't know how much section we did do, I think, Rick thought maybe it'd be 20 or 30, but we're not sure. You know, with our budget on our streets, we've figured it up to like 80, which gave us a little about 20 as a bumper anyways. And the other thing we were going to do was pay off School Street. We just done our first payment on School Street, so we still have plenty of time to pay it off. We've just been trying to pay everything off early. And it's about $20,000 this year, so I'm thinking I'm gonna hold off paying that off this year to be able to cover most of the expense of that forward that we've just done, and then maybe pay it off next year in our budget. So, this way, since we don't know, it might be more than what, you know, we have already set back, since we've already got these other projects already in the fix. I think that's gonna be our best bet financially to keep under our budget. I just wanted to let you guys know that's my plan. You know, my plan to pay off early has always been to pay off, and like I said, we just made our very first payment of like $300, so it's not like it needs to be paid off today, so. But I think that's our best bet once we get the final numbers on that culvert.
Benny, I went down and spoke with the operator that was down there, and he said he replaced 40 feet of tile, correct?
they ended up putting 80 feet in total.
80 feet in?
And what they ended up having to do, they had to go clear back to the end and start and come up, they came up to Main Street. When the sinkhole wasn't actually in our drive area, it goes back to the lagoons to start with. So they dug that up first, and that was only gonna be about 40 feet. Well, when they got down in there and looked, they could see that it was caving in underneath the drive going back here. So they called me and they said, what do you think we ought to do? And I said, I think we gotta fix it. I mean, we can't just let that go, because we take heavy trucks back through there, and Maverick is back to our lift stations and stuff, you know, we gotta, I said, I can't take a chance that if it's caving, and he said, yeah, the one piece is definitely caving in. He said, it's gonna go in before too long, you're gonna have a hole out that dry, and I said, we just gotta go all the way to Main Street, so we went, and there again, I hope you guys don't think I overstepped my boundaries by just going ahead and doing it. I don't normally, when we're going this kind of expense, I would prefer to be able to go to council first, but in a situation like that, I thought.
Emergency expenditures.
You made
Yeah,
a great call.
I just felt that we needed to go, start and go up to Main Street and stop there, and then we can pursue to hopefully get the grant money to go on underneath Main Street this next year.
So just to let you know what I got from him, he said that whatever he had replaced, he replaced however many feet it was. He said he thinks that he's got another 100 feet or a little bit more to go.
It was 80 feet to Main Street and about 100 feet from there to finish the project.
Yeah,
So that's what's going to be placed. It's going to be about another 100 feet going underneath Main Street.
I'd like to second Jeff's motion.
Repeat your motion, Jeff.
Oh, now I gotta remember. So my motion was to, instead of going after the grant, the OPWC funding for Light Street, instead go after that grant funding for the West Main Street culvert.
Okay, I got it. Mr. Hamilton, made a motion. Dave, all in favor?
I think it was a blessing that happened, so no more Band-Aids. I love how quickly they work. I mean, I'd go to work, come back, and they were,
And you can't even tell anything.
I didn't
Yeah,
even know
it's
that.
beautiful work.
They did a super job, and now it may sink, and Pat told me, he said, it may sink someday, I said, we'll keep an eye on it, we got gravel up there, if it goes down a little bit, we can put gravel across that, and it will sink. They tamped it really good with their compactor, but I'll guarantee you, if it's still that deep, it's gonna sink over a period of time.
And if you guys see the orange pipe, that's where it stops.
Right.
yeah, I think it was a blessing it happened.
Brian Morris is their best operator.
Yeah.
Adult Works Movement.
I took the tax exempt form out to Patty. Patty even bought the pipe for us cheaper than what we could buy. I had Rick and them checking prices for just the pipe, and he saved us a huge amount of money on the pipe for what he could get it for, the same thing. So, I mean, I'm very appreciative of what Pat Cavell did for us at Drayton. I thought he did a super job. He got right on it, came right in immediately that same day I called him on Monday. He was here that Monday to look at it, and they ordered the pipe. They went and picked the pipe and everything up, got on the job, and in less than 2 weeks, it was completely finished.
It's just the issue.
Yeah, I'm thankful that you make those decisions even during your vacation.
Well, that's, hey,
Thank you.
like I said, things, stuff like that happens, and you just have to take care of it. I couldn't just say, well, it's gonna have to wait for 2 weeks till I get back. I mean, it's got to be taken care of. And there again, on that topic, I just want council to know, I'm very appreciative of Rick and Don and RJ. Rick was on the phone with me several different times, almost every day, 2 or 3 times a day, giving me updates on what was going on. Him and I was communicating back and forth. I can't say enough. The guys really did a good job.
And you didn't say we can go on vacation?
No, I did not. I didn't tell him to call me. I told him up front. I said, you
Can't
need
do
anything,
anything
call me.
crashing.
Yeah.
Hey, well, I was even driving down the road, and my wife would have the phone, put it on speakerphone, so I could be talking while I was driving down the road. So, but I really do appreciate what those guys did an excellent job communicating back and forth with me to help me out in that time. Of course, like Rick said, he said, if anything's gonna happen, it always happens when you go on vacation. Every year it happens that way, so that's the way it is.
That's good.
That's what Rick said. Rick said, no more vacations are done.
Anything else, Benny?
On the pavement, we did have a pre-construction meeting on Kirby and Halderman and them. They should be in here probably mid-August to start on that.
Great.
So that's what they said at the pre-construction meeting. I talked to the guy on the tar and chip in the alleys. We're looking September on those. And he said, since we held it up, they had scheduled some other stuff ahead of us. And so, but they plan on getting in here now, this chipping or the crack seal. Hopefully they'll get in here you know, a little bit earlier on that. He thought they probably, maybe the 1st of September, they could get in here sometime, get the crack seal done on Church and High Street that we wanted done.
I think our alleys are great, though.
But, yeah, and that guy commended them alleys, I think. I mean, I went all the alleys, it was really
That
nice.
was Reese.
Ruby Street looks nice down there. I don't know if you run the
Yeah, they did a nice job on the movie.
We only have one, he's supposed to be coming back in down here in the alley that runs, east and west between Main and the Church, right there where it crosses the intersection of that other alley. They didn't taper it, and it's a big hump, so they're gonna come back in and taper it, so, until he does that, we've got his check ready, but he's not sending that check out until he goes back in and does our punch list.
So we have all the, try it again, have all the alleys been completed at this point?
No, just the two main alleys and Moody Street. The tar and chip has not been done. The other street alleys are gonna be tar and chip. And he told me initially when I called him in June, he said, I'm telling you, we're probably looking mid to late September then. And he's confirmed that when I talked to him again today. So.
Okay, Ben, on our agenda here, I had to talk to you about the alleys, the culvert, and Halderman, Kirby, Dunford. I think you covered them.
I think I got all of them.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ben.
Appreciate all your work, especially handling that while you're on vacation.
Absolutely.
Hey, it is what it is. I mean, some things you just have to do, and that's good.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to move on to committees, and the first thing we have is Parks and Beautification, and I think Suzanne Miller has something to say.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
She's a part of our Parks Committee.
All
She
right.
does a wonderful job, too.
We are looking at the second annual Fall Festival. We're looking for approval for tent rentals, for light rentals and bowls, etc., all that good stuff. It's going to be October 29th and 30th. We're having a chili cook-off, which we're going to be handling, and a movie that night, family events, Saturday family events parade. The churches in the village are working together. We're going to have game night and vendors that night, and an art walk. And Alyssa Jenkins, our local dentist, is the one that's handling for that. And we are looking for not to exceed $600, so we are looking for some money.
That's for tent rental, lights and supplies, not to
Yes.
exceed $600.
Yes,
And is game night Friday night or Thursday night?
I thought we were on
28th.
Thursday.
The rental
Thursday.
for the
Oh,
tent is only
rental for
Friday
the
and
tent is
Saturday.
Friday and Saturday.
But our Fall Festival's Thursday.
Thursday and Saturday, yeah.
Unrelated to the $600, Halloween's my favorite holiday. Is trick or treat going to coincide with either of those? Okay,
Yes.
cool.
Yes.
So Saturday, we will
So
need
dress
a,
up, Jeff.
Oh, yeah, man, I already dressed up. That's right.
Test and
Yeah.
everything.
approval for.
I love Halloween. It's great.
You can dress up as a small one.
Yeah, Saturday, we're doing a parade, costume contest, and trick or treat. Friday's the chili cook-off and movie. Thursday is games and art walk and vendor fair.
So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, full of fun.
I love it.
That's kind of what we did last year too. We approved tent rental and lights for a chili cook-off just for safety purposes and shelter for weather for the multiple things we had going on the Friday and Saturday in that specific location. We set up down where Dwayne's,
Yeah, and the tent
Food
really
trailer,
did
so-
come in handy because
Yeah, it was chilly.
chilly. I mean, other than
Yeah.
chili.
one of those big old needle.
We gotta work on
Big
some groups
size,
for the
yeah,
costume
close them all.
contest.
Yes, yes, yes.
I would like to say something too. My wife and I have a large wedding that we are catering that night. So I'm 85% sure I'm gonna be at the chili cook-off. And she's gonna do the wedding with employees. So, but in case something does happen, I just want to have the backup plan of the Parks and Beautification.
We'll jump in, we'll take care of it.
Yeah, we got it. We got a great parks.
You'll be able to use my trailer. It's just, Use my trailer, like we did last year with the, the chili
Right.
food and the chili
Yeah.
right now, so.
I have a question, since I'm doing the flyers. Last year, you only let businesses submit chili. Are you doing that same
Yes.
thing this year? Okay.
It keeps it.
I know last year you guys said that you
I
might
am.
want to expand it next year. I
My
just wanted to
brother,
be sure
who's
before
my
I.
business partner,
Just business.
is a huge chili
And the,
OCD.
you want to explain to her how much it costs and the proceeds?
I love it.
So she does flyers, done it for you now.
Yeah.
Before you do flyers.
So,
Yeah.
what do we need, Char? We need a motion to.
A motion to approve,
Up
the,
to 600.
Purchasing $600 worth of accessories.
I'll make that motion to approve up to $600 for the supplies and intent.
And I will second.
Okay.
So we have a motion, a second, all in favor?
Nice.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
The only other thing I didn't cover with that would be our parade route, which we can bring to next month's meeting, the council meeting for approval on the road. Just a little heads up, we'll be asking or thinking about doing something for the parade. We'll need some safety measurements in place.
I have one more thing for parks. The the Baseball Association is now starting to do a fall ball and starting this year. And I've communicated with them and told them that they have to work around the football because the football was there, is the ones that are there. They've contacted the football and made sure that their schedule is not going to interfere with the football. And I told them that, because the way the food booth stuff is we kind of break it down into 7 months, and then we divide it between the two. So I told them that they would probably have to pay a little bit more on the thing, on the food booth. They were asking questions about some new stipulations and stuff, but I just got confirmation that those don't apply to us, and I sent them to them today,
So wait a minute, what doesn't apply to who?
the new stipulations on the food booth rules.
As far as money?
They were wanting to know, do we even have to get licensed anymore? They were worried about that, because according to these new papers, we found out today that it doesn't apply to us because it's considered a retail, and we're not considered retail, so I did correspond that with them.
The only thing they can sell is prepackaged food.
Well, they can do it, it's just they have to, they chose to downgrade their license this year. It's just they thought that they could get away with not having to have a license anymore as a non-profit, but we found out they still have to have
So
it.
you did communicate with
Yes.
Mr. and
And
everyone does need to have licensure to operate food, even prepackaged food, out of our village food in parks.
Yeah.
Great job, thank you.
another thing for parks, if everyone's done, or it might be a question for you, but it was brought to my attention when we were down there, there was that wooden fence that separates like the playground from the parking lot. A couple of them were broke, I think some kids were climbing over.
The Little Leagues want to put them up.
So I don't know who that is. There's a couple that fell down, I picked them back up because they just go into the slot. And there was, I think, one that was completely broke. And I just didn't want to be a
I
zig.
mean, we can replace them. I know that the Little League put them up, basically paid to have them put up, so.
The one that's broke is right, like 2 sections down from where the dumpster area is.
Yeah, I think I saw it there.
It was just brought to my attention, so I figured to mention something tonight.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys want us to replace them, I can have you guys go get the stuff to replace them, or
Yeah, children's safety is.
the Little League, I know the Little League put them up, I mean,
Yeah, we'll have to see, because I think the one I put back up was the upper or lower from that section, so if it still blocks off, it'd be fine. I just want to get that out of there so no one gets cut on it, just as long as they can block them from going from the park to the parking lot.
Right.
If it doesn't, I say we should probably replace it for safety, because it's already crazy there anyhow.
oh, I know.
Yeah,
Even with the fence there, blocking the parking lot, there's so many.
I thought maybe a car pulled in and bumped it.
Nah, I think the kids
Yeah,
were
but
going
you might-
to the bathroom instead of walking around, they were going through, and when some fell and then a couple, and then one split, so.
I'm glad you noticed that. We definitely want the service guys to fix it.
I'll just have them go in and pick up a new one there.
Yeah, I only noticed one, so, but
I'll check them all.
just double check.
If we need more than one, we'll get more than one. If we don't need that one, I'll just have them go pick one up.
You're just gonna replace the broken ones.
Yeah, we'll replace whatever's broken.
I appreciate
You're
it.
welcome to stay. Are we done with parks?
Anything else on Martin? Okay, we're gonna go on the budget.
We kind of did a lot of it when I was talking about the holding off paying that to pay for the part of the culvert. And then, we've got to do appropriations before the end of the year, so we'll be having a meeting in the latter quarter. It's probably October, as soon as I get my, numbers for the appropriations for next year. And I know, Ben wanted to bring up one other thing, about, maybe getting the budget committee together to go over salaries. It was brought to his attention about, you could go to any McDonald's and get $15, $16 an hour, and all of our employees here are getting paid $15.45. And he was worried about losing our really good full-time employee, because he could go get something a lot. So they wanted you guys to review that. So I don't know if you guys the budget committee wants to get together and go over it, and then,
I'm gonna ask for that real quick with our full-time employee. I've asked for him to consider getting certifications to save the village money on weed spraying and mosquito spraying. He has to have certain certifications. He's been studying for that. We've done evaluations, he's excelled. March will make 2 years that he's been here, and
I
Yes.
think, is it been 2
Yeah,
years?
so it's 2 years this coming March. So it's been about a year and a half.
he has brought an energy and a work ethic that we want to retain. I can see that he does not stand idly, and that he's motivated, and that to the point of, obviously, you're not gonna go work third shift at McDonald's when you aren't operating equipment and doing something you love outside and stuff, but still, we need to value him. And if he's getting these certifications, we don't want him to go somewhere else where he can make $25 an hour. We want to keep him. That's my 2 cents.
Carrie, could you note that and bring it up to the budget meeting?
I just didn't know if we wanted to discuss it before, that way when we do, because the budget meeting is for the appropriations, but I didn't know if we wanted to discuss it prior to that way we can have it set before the end of the year.
So you want 2 budget meetings is what you're saying? Set them up.
Do you know how far off we are from those certifications as far as testing?
It's still a while.
Spray.
Oh, yeah, because
I know there's a lot that goes into
that
it.
book is about that thick.
I'm not saying
So
that.
I would say you're probably looking at, hopefully, he's going to try to get it over this next year.
Yeah.
But it's not something that you can just read.
No, I'm not saying that because I'm like, why hasn't he already? I'm saying just for a general timeline, because
So he is studying.
I know that that's hard.
Yeah, he's showing
And
interest.
EPA and all that kind of stuff is necessary.
He's showing motivation, interest, and.
No, he's doing a great job. I remember.
He's a very good worker. I mean, I don't have to go tell him everything to do. I mean, he sees things and does them on his own a lot of times. I mean, now, if there's something specific that I want done, I tell him, but a lot of times he is very good. For a young guy like him, he's very motivated. He's also very skilled. He can weld. He can do a lot of things. He does a lot of things, he's fixing stuff. So, believe me, I was a crew leader when I worked for the water department in Lancaster. And Rick was also. And we had a lot of young guys in there that they thought you owed them a paycheck. They didn't want to do anything. All they did is what they had to absolutely do, and that was it. And you had to almost make them do it to get them to do it. He's not that kind of guy, and he's even I've showed him some things at the water plant before I went on vacation, so he could be a little bit familiar. Yes, I don't expect him to go down and be able to run it, but if something happened, they at least have a little bit of insight. He's young, and he'd be a great person if we could keep hanging on to him. But my fear is that if we can't get his pay up a little bit, he's gonna go somewhere else, and could I blame him? I could not blame the young man, because he had a family.
Right.
Now, like us, like Rick said, you know, we're part-time, we're all retired, we don't need the extra money, we're doing this, it helps us out, but it's still, but someone like him, I would like to see him get a little extra money to be able to help out if the council can do it at all.
How would I completely get what you're saying, because we're struggling where I'm at to hire skilled guys or gals for $22 an hour. And so how would the other guys feel about, you know, if it's just one and not them?
I've always said, that's already been discussed, and that's not an issue. Like Don's part-time, I'm part-time, Don, Rick, and I are all retired.
Okay.
So we're doing this on a part-time basis. We're all satisfied with where we're at. I mean, yes, I know what I do with the water, it's gonna, you could replace it for $30 an hour.
Right.
But that's,
Still
I've lived in this town all my life, around Amanda. I'm not doing it because I want to, I'm doing it because it gives me something to do, it helps the village out, and it saves you money. Now,
Thank you.
when I would decide to retire, it may be difficult, because I know somebody was telling me today that they in London got retired up there, and they cannot hire anybody. They've offered $30 an hour, and they can't get anybody to run their water plant. They're subbing it out to contractors to come in and do it.
You're gonna have to
But they
train
can't-
me
Let's
when you
say,
retire.
So, but anyways, he's the one that I'm concerned about. I'm not concerned about me, I'm not concerned about revenue, I'm concerned about.
Yeah, that's a good
Now
question.
Carrie's a
And he
different
is
story,
full-time.
she maybe falls in that same category.
I've been here 18 years.
Right, so, you know, it might be something you might want to think about there too, but us guys, we're good. We're all good. I mean, you know, each year you've been real good about maybe like giving us 2 or 3% at the end of the year. I think they're all set.
Anything else on budget?
No, we'll work out a date,
2 days.
2 days.
I have one other question. RJ was asking the other day, how's his vacations and stuff, how much vacation stuff does he have? I don't know.
I can look that up.
Okay, you got that? Okay, because I do not know.
Yeah.
I told him, I said, RJ, I don't know. I said, nobody's ever asked me.
Maybe it should be a week.
So,
It's based on how many, since he's been here 2 years, I think he gets an extra day after 2 years. I would have to look it up, it's in the folder.
okay, I mean, and that's something could always be adjusted down the road too. if need be.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, it tops it out, because there's so many days for vacation, so many days for personal, and I think when it tops off after you've been there for so many years, I think like, between both of them, 16 days.
Right.
But, so I mean, but I think he's got 2 weeks after the first year, and then now it's been another year, he gets another day, so.
Great. Glad you went with that.
But I'd have to verify that.
That's fine. He asked me today, and I said, I'll have to check, because RJ, I said, I have no idea.
Yep, no problem.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay. Budget's over. On to zoning.
We haven't really had anything.
We
Awesome.
haven't had any, I mean, I've had a couple of things I've went and looked at, but we've never had any zoning permits or anything handed out this last month or so.
The only thing I know is Carrie called me a couple weeks ago with a question, and
Yes.
I didn't answer the phone, but by the time I got back to her on the remedy, and that was
Yeah.
replacing a trailer.
Right.
A mobile home, not a trailer, a mobile home.
Yeah, we got that
30 days.
And she decided not to, because she didn't want to have to put a permanent foundation in.
She had to put a permanent foundation in, and she didn't want to do that, she didn't want that out of expense, and she decided not to do it.
Yes. So, that's where we're at there. Yep.
Services.
I know I have dropped the ball a lot on the cat, so I'll talk to Dave and maybe we can, set up a time to meet to talk to get some prices for the cat, or you?
Yes, sir. And I got more on that too, so, yeah, we definitely need to have a meeting. So a couple months ago, I had spoke with Benny, off record, regarding the purchase of the cat and, or of the back of the village needs. And we had talked about the Ohio Cooperative Purchasing Program through the Ohio Department of Administrative Services. So I did a little digging to find out that we were not a member of
We are a
this
member.
program. Okay, because they do not have us listed. If you go into their website,
I know, but I'm just saying, we've got a certificate in our office.
so we do have it.
Yeah.
That is correct.
Should be,
Okay.
unless they didn't send me a bill.
Because I messaged Charlotte about it, and because the COVID stuff is going on right now, they suspended a lot of stuff regarding joining it, the fees and everything. But yeah, upon looking it up, it had Amanda Township listed, and I searched by county, but it didn't have the village listed. But we are part of that cooperative.
As far as I know, it's
We
still
will-
good.
I
It's
know- I know we bought
always
it.
been, it's always used to be $100 every year. They would send it
Okay.
like in March.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. And that's all I have.
Yeah.
Thank you for your initiative.
So you and Jeff are gonna have a meeting then?
And have information by
What's your
September.
availability? Yeah.
Why
Right
don't
now,
why don't we work that out?
I don't know yet. When everybody
Sunday?
tell me I gotta go back to work, I'll have to go back to work. But yeah, I'm pretty much free for probably until late September, I guess.
All right.
So we'll look for you guys at the September meeting to have some
Yeah, we'll get a
information
link out of it.
for council. Wonderful.
I got one more thing on services. There's a couple of old rotten stumps in front of my house. I asked Lenny if you could just, they're between the sidewalk and the street. You can see me bust them up for
What
me.
was it?
A couple of stumps.
where they cut trees off years ago. I'll have the guys look at it, if we can.
That's on
rip them
Main
together,
Street?
Backhoe, and if they're rotted, we can pop them out. If they're not rotted, it's gonna be, if they're very big, it might be hard to get them out without damaging the sidewalk.
They're big, but I think.
But if they're rotted, they'll just, he can just pull the tops off of it anyway, so we can put dirt or something there. We got plenty of dirt back.
Dirt and seed.
Yeah, dirt.
And they
Okay.
brought me concrete, but I said pieces I can move, because remember Don or somebody said we have plenty of concrete.
Yeah.
And I can't move the pieces, so I'll get with them about moving that.
Yeah, he said he'd be willing to take back for it.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Like, they must think I'm super willing.
I have something on services. It's kind of services, but not really. It actually could fall under property maintenance, but we had a resident here in town that's got property maintenance issues. He's a veteran. He's also handicapped and progressively getting worse. So I had sent him stuff to kind of see if he could apply for help. And it kind of fell in deaf ears, but he contacted me. And I went up there and found out he had a lot of the materials, he just didn't have anybody to do them. So I kind of initiated trying to get some workers to come in to help him. And then I had sent Ben up there at one point, and Ben talked to him because he's got mounds of dirt in his yard that he had brought in to like backfill. So he asked if there was any way, since he can't physically do it anymore, if the village would be willing to help out and help move a little bit of that dirt in his yard, just so it could be taken care of, so he could actually mow his grass. So Ben had said something that he probably could, but he wasn't to get you guys' approval on that prior to helping. My thing is I want to help this guy out, being that he can't physically do it anymore himself. But we need to get your approval that if it comes down to it, because since then, he's run into some financial issues and took all the material back to the store, and now I'm trying to get, I've had people lined up to come and help him on 2 occasions now to do other things besides windows and siding that he took back to the store, and he's now pushed it back because of other issues. So if it ever comes to pass that we get somebody in there to help him, we need your approval to allow us to use, to Dawn or Rick to go down there and move some dirt, just to get it out of the way of the workers. But that's up to you.
What's the legality of us doing that,
Yeah.
Carrie? Does it violate any of our ordinances or?
I think
Insurance?
if we have him sign something that says that we're not responsible for any injury or accidents, I don't know. I mean, we've went on private property before to fix water or utilities or whatever, but,
But there's usually a fee involved.
Yeah.
there's usually a fee. I mean, I think it'd be up to council to make that decision whether
That's a
they want
fine
to.
line.
Yeah,
That's a fine line.
I don't personally don't have any problem with it as long as it's within our scope and it's legal to do. Because the only thing I can foresee is that, somebody finds out about this and then requests some services from us for gratis, and then we tell them no, and there's a big
Yeah.
That's the reason why I've always been one that's always said, you know, I love to help people out as much as you can.
Yeah.
But you have to be real careful because, you know, if you do it for one, then you gotta do it for the other. But now, this might be able to fall underneath a little bit different category. This man served the country. He came home. Because of his service to the country, I feel a little more towards helping somebody like that. I mean, I don't know what he happened over there when he was over in was it Nam that he was in, or where?
No, he's
Iraq,
young.
whatever. Anyways, he can't, the guy can't even hardly get around now. I mean, he got some kind of whether it was Agent Orange or whatever.
Talk, he can't
Anyway,
hardly talk,
he's
so.
really, yeah, he is really bad. I mean, God bless him, you can't even hardly understand him when he talks to you anymore.
And I agree, man, because I think we owe a debt of gratitude to them folks, but.
And I understand what you're saying too, Dave, and
Yeah.
there's a fine line there that you gotta be
Yeah.
careful with.
So, yeah, if it's all good and it's legal and there's no implications, I'm all for it, so.
I'm afraid we set the precedent. We can't undo that. I agree with Ben, that, you know, obviously this person has served our country and we owe them a lot. But all it's gonna take is one person who doesn't feel the same way to go,
Absolutely.
well, you know what, I need this done, or I need that done, or when we go to hold them accountable
Right.
for taking care of their property, which is what we're doing, you know, they're gonna go, well, you did it for person X, you have to do it for me too. And once we set that precedent, there's no walking it back.
That's always been my thing, but then, you know, I guess maybe I feel a little different about this
Right.
this service.
We all do.
The thing is,
Yeah, but,
but, you know, I guess we have to be careful, we are walking a fine line.
so are any of your volunteers equipment ready? Are they
I
able
don't
to do what
know.
our service department guys would
I'm not
do?
sure if they would have.
Can you look
equipment.
into that first?
Well, you know, so I'm gonna play the devil's advocate and be the bad guy and say things that don't need said, or nobody wants to say. How much of this are you doing on village time? But I'm just saying,
Right.
that's gonna come up if Carrie's organizing this on village time because of her position.
Good thought.
Some of it because it was a property maintenance.
Right, but that's
Yeah.
that's where I'm going
And then
at.
some of it home.
We're, right, you know, I think what you want to do on your own time is
Right.
your business. But,
Right.
you know, and I don't mean to be that jerk, but, you know, I think we need to think about this and we need to talk about the ramifications of doing this and spending village time doing it and all of that. And
Glad you thought of it.
I would really love to help this person out, but to do it when we don't do it for everybody else.
Yeah.
Just, I believe we're gonna get in trouble sooner or later.
All right.
It looks like the
I'll
Good
see
Old
if we
Boys
can get
Club.
anybody else, I'm
or-
just saying, you know, he mentioned maybe we could do it, but we just thought about
You'd ask
asking
permission
permission
to
on the
volunteer.
Right.
Yeah, organize some
It's not through the
volunteers.
village.
Right.
Yeah. And it happened
We
to
learned
be,
about it through the village.
yeah.
Right.
But this is a volunteer situation.
Well, what really
No
happened
village
is he got
equipment,
wrote up
no.
for it, and then he contacted us trying to say, well, I can't do it, what can I do?
I mean,
So
we
it was
have-
like
we have
those type of
contractors around
situations,
here.
yeah. I think at one point, if we keep getting pushed back, we're gonna end up having to enforce, because we kind of put it on
Right.
hold until
Right,
we
but
can get.
there's
some
enough
time.
contractors and there's enough,
Did you have any luck with any veteran services organizations? None.
Well, I really think, you know, so putting stuff on hold and even us reaching out to veteran services organizations and trying to find, while sounds really noble and sounds great, man, we're just digging our hole deeper.
You're true, you're right.
I like, you know, if people want to volunteer on their own time with their own equipment, heck yeah, let's do it. I'll even help too, but to do it from a capacity that we're all in, I think we'd wind up having to do it for anybody that asked.
Yeah.
even if you wanted to organize a village volunteers.
That's what I've been trying to do
Yeah.
at this point now, because we're trying to do it on Saturday, but.
Yeah, but you
He keeps
can,
pushing it
don't
back.
say it's just for this one person, it's a veteran.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
Was this Was this guy's property a complaint?
Yes, and that's why he called me, trying to figure out what he had to
He was
do.
written up for property maintenance.
And we had to go out there, because we couldn't understand him on the phone, so we had to go out there and really talk to him a couple times to try to grasp, he didn't grasp the scope and what was, needed to be done, and so, yeah.
So by that same instance, Carrie, and this would probably get to property maintenance too, but what have we done as far as pursuing?
His property,
Yes.
he's gotten a first notice, and then a second notice, and that's when he
So
reached
we
out to
are
us.
following through still?
Yes, and after the second notice, being that we were trying to get some workers, we kind of held off on the deadline on that. So I think at this point, if he doesn't move forward in 2 weeks with the volunteers, then we'll have to move forward on the property maintenance. I hate to do that because of
Yeah,
the
but
issue, but
But it runs in the same thing Jeff and I were just
Right.
talking about, if you do it for this guy,
Yeah.
if you're gonna do it for this person.
right.
And there's another address on here who's elderly, and she didn't serve the country, but she's confined, and she needs help, and so she reached out for help. So we give a little grace, we tried to give some resources, but we have a job to do.
Yeah.
And on our own time, you know, I'm willing to help as well, so on our own time.
Sure.
You know, my dad's a vet, and I know what it's like to reach out and ask for help, and I know what it's like to get overwhelmed. My yard had weeds taller than me. So, I mean, I can empathize.
I just
But we
unfortunately
do-
don't have access to a backhoe to help you guys.
You know, but we do need to stick to our job, so I'm glad we had that.
I figured I'd discuss this since it was part of the property violations, and it would be a service department that done it, so that's why I brought it
Okay, so are we complete with services?
Yeah.
Okay, so we are going to move on to property maintenance. Yours is duly noted. And Nick, do you have anything to say about property maintenance? You were the property maintenance manager last year.
I do, I think we have to catch up from June too, right? Do you have anything in June? That we did last month?
so-
Skip ahead, I can talk to you.
That's fine.
So to touch base on June, I mean, we were a little busy, but for the most part, I mean, we got, I think everything accomplished. We had, you want me to go through each one or just
No.
highlights?
Just tell us just tell us the highlights of what you did to what addresses.
So, there was an address on Oak, put a notice on the door. There was, another address on Oak. So, let's see. So 206 was where we put the notice on the door, right? Yep.
I don't know, I
Yeah.
updated it since
Yeah.
then, I
It says,
updated
it
every
says,
time. so.
return unopened and 6/1/21.
Yep, posted on the door.
6/16.
Yep, so tape that on their door. 303 had some grass violations, again, which it looks like, I happened to drive by it today, somebody's been mowing. So there was a few, few others, to be honest, I don't remember all of them now, but there, it was really mostly just grass, there wasn't,
And you had the one on Leist.
Leist.
You signed the,
oh, well, that's the one on the corner? Yeah, that was, there was a bunch of debris there. And it looked like somebody was living in the trailer that was there. So,
That complete, June?
yeah.
All right, July we had 3 high grass complaints. We also had, I'm trying to find the one, on West High down.
This number what?
I don't see it on there.
If that's the trailer,
East High, 221 East High.
There, 221 East High, was written up, debris in the yard, building materials, an old car, a propane tank, it was just a lot.
I wasn't 221 East Time.
No, that's grass.
Really? Maybe?
Which one are you talking about?
I didn't see it on there.
Oh, that was the one West High, that is,
308?
yes. No,
No, it's not. I don't see it on there.
oh, I must have heard.
Is that the one on the,
Yeah.
no, I'm thinking.
Anyhow, it's not on here, I don't have the address in front of you. They were mailed out a letter for a property maintenance issue. I did drive by today, they are cleaning it up a little bit. So hopefully, next go around,
If I can add to that, that guy lives right behind me. So what he's done is he's a scrapper, so he brings stuff in, tears stuff apart, takes aluminum, takes steel, takes, things to the scrapyard. So what he's done is he's cleaned all that up and he has it in a fenced-in area next to his, shed that's, it's kind of rigged, it's not, the fence isn't permanent, it's just leaning against the stuff, so, I just want to tell you what's going on that property.
So, it looks like he's cleaning up a little bit, there's still a lot of work to go, so hopefully, have him let us sit down and have a conversation, they'll kind of understand we can't scrap and do all that kind of stuff on the property. The only one I have, other than that, would be, 339,
239?
yeah, 239 West High Street. We had to do a re-inspect, I guess the exterior was closed for,
The trash and
the trash and
debris.
debris, it looks really great, they're doing a great job. The thing that came up on my list, and I talked to a couple of people about already, would be, this will be our first interior inspection that we have to do. And I think since we started the new property maintenance procedures with us doing it, we might need to revisit some procedures that go along with that, doing internal inspections, especially with this property that's been taken as far as court.
I do want to say it was mainly on the structure itself, meaning that it's waterproof now, we don't have it open to the outside. And it's livable. We're not there to say your electric's wrong, we're there to make sure that it's habitable, that's the right word. Right.
Yeah. So I think if we're doing interior inspections, I like the idea of having two people going. I don't know if anyone else has that.
I think that's smart.
And the sheriff.
This specific property has went as far as courts and potentially, I don't know, condemn or whatever. Like I said, I don't mind going in with somebody. I just think we're doing interior inspections, I think two of us need to go. Because right now, we're snapping pictures, we're sending them in, we never meet the people. These people are getting written up, and then we're showing up their house for an internal inspection, and they're not happy about it. Having one of us there might not be so great, so. Just a second set of eyes, so I need to get that scheduled, I don't mind doing it with somebody.
This person's actually contacted us to find out when the inspection's going to be.
I do.
So it's a matter of getting together with them.
And then if we can try to find a phone number, I know that's the one thing.
Yeah, I don't know if phone number.
I drove by, I didn't look like anyone was there, several times, so I don't know where they're at, but, yeah.
I'll be happy to go with you if you need somebody to.
Just to make it clear, I don't mind signing off on structure saying it's weatherproof. I don't want to sign off on someone's structure to say it's structurally safe, and something happened at the property the following week. And they say, oh, well, Councilman Root just inspected that, and he said it was okay, and it's a huge liability. I'll go in and say, hey, they boarded this up, there's no rain coming in, that sort of stuff.
Siding's all one.
Yeah, to do some material, that's fine, but as far as to say something structurally safe, I just don't like that word.
We're not here.
And along with what Nick is saying too,
There's a lot of agencies involved in this in the first place.
does the village have a camera that's accessible for any of us for property maintenance?
The
I use a
iPad.
tablet.
The tablet.
Okay, so we can use the tablet.
Yeah, we definitely use the tablet. I
Yeah.
think each person needs a copy of this International Property Maintenance Code. that
Every
we-
person, when they become one, I've been given them a copy.
I got a copy.
Okay, and then I like how we need to make sure that we're not, what you're saying, we're not writing, it's safe, it's habitable, it's past our inspection.
I don't know. I just don't know what the extent of our responsibility is in that compared to what was written up. Because there's a file this big, and for me to go through all that and say, yeah, it's great, good job, and it does look a lot better. I just don't want to sign off on something saying, and I commend them for all the work they're doing.
Right.
I don't want to say something safe, something happened, and say, oh, Councilor Root said it was safe to live in. and we just had a fire in the trailer, and people were hurt or whatever, and it comes back on, not just myself, any councilman.
Yeah, the village.
Or the village. You know, it's just one of those things where we have to look into everything, since we just now recently, a few months ago, took over property maintenance instead of just jumping in and saying, let's just get it done, which I'm with it. We just have to cover all of our bases with safety and legally for ourselves and the village.
In a case like this where we have to go inside too, I think it might be a good idea for us to do some research on any PPE that's needed.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I have no idea anything about this property, so I'm not commenting on it, but just as a general, you know, there's fleas and bugs and,
Glove, masks, hats,
I mean, I
gowns.
don't know about you, you know, I don't want to take bed bugs home.
No,
I'm not saying they have it, I'm just talking in general. It's a problem right now.
That's a safety
in the
thing, too.
world, right.
Especially with virus and everything else going on
Yeah.
in other people's houses. Some people might not even, I know this person reached out, but I'm just saying in general, some people won't even want us in their house right now, so.
Yeah. Or we don't want to be in their houses.
Yeah, so it is a safety thing, a liability thing, so I didn't get that one done until I discussed it at the council meeting, but we do need to get it done. I think it closed out at the end of June, so. So yeah, I don't mind, there's probably maintenance next month.
Rod's next month, and then Dave.
I thought I was.
Well, I'll talk to Rod to see.
Yeah, so Rod's August.
Now.
I'll talk to Rod and pick his ear since he's this month and see if he'll.
Well, him
If
too.
not.
Well, if it's Rod's month, I mean, if you need
Technically, it's
somebody.
my job, so I gotta find somebody.
Okay.
I don't want to pass it on to somebody, I guess, but my whole point of bringing up the liability safety thing, of not saying, oh, it's not my month anymore, I don't want to deal with it. I'm more than happy to deal with it.
Hey, man, I know them, so if you need me to.
All right, I'll get with Dave or Jeff this month, and we'll take care of it. But if we can find the phone number in the meantime.
Yeah, I don't have a phone number.
Okay.
All we have is their address.
Yeah, I don't have a phone number either.
Do they-
The phone number that I have is not working.
They go in and out pretty often.
Well, next door, Randy Mansell, he owns the property. He's usually always said.
And he's the one that you're to talk to.
Yeah.
He's the,
Okay.
yeah.
It's not the person living there, it's the person.
No, it's the homeowner, the property.
We'll get that done this week. hopefully.
In touch base to what Nick says, so I know of all these homes we're going in for an inspection. We don't get to go in and see what happened previously, you know, or the conditions previously. My problem is that my definition of habitable structure is probably going to be a lot different from somebody else's definition of a habitable structure.
He's looking at me because I have 5 dogs.
No. I gotta get cats, Star. I gotta get cats.
I did it up in here.
And snake. Before the whole
Yeah,
thing first.
snake.
But, you know what I'm saying? Not so much the structural integrity part of it, but, you know, so to backtrack, years ago, with the fire department, we had an issue with basically a hoarder property. And while it's hazardous to us, obviously, so I reached out to some local agencies in Lincoln County. And one agency that I reached out to, one of the people I reached out to was a lawyer. And the bad thing about properties like this is that people are free to live however they want to live, as long as they're in their right mind. You know, they're not deemed as mentally defective or whatever. So you and you and you and you and you and I, if we want to live in a hoarder house, we have that right. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm saying. My definition of habitable is going to be different from somebody else's definition of habitable. So I don't know where the legality follows us there, because obviously if I go to do an inspection and it's still a hoarder house, then I'm going to deem uninhabitable because of that circumstance, you know, because of the hazard it presents to first responders or anybody that's got to make entry into that, so.
My other thing about that is,
The code lays that out though.
property maintenance is complaint driven, correct? Somebody had to have been inside of that structure to make the complaints and the pictures.
The pictures from the inside was sent to us with
It was
the
Fairfield County.
Fairfield County.
So what I'm saying, if it goes to that point to where the pictures we saw being done, it'd be nice if whoever made it, I understand what you're talking about, but it's just weird that they don't have a follow process with everything, because it's different for me driving across this property and saying, hey, he's got high grass, I'm snapping a picture, but this had to be a pretty big situation for
Yes.
someone to see the inside of someone's house and report it to us.
This is the ones in almost.
So it may never come up again, so I don't want to get too deep into it.
Yeah.
It's,
Well, it's important that we have some kind of verbiage. I have to say, I think our property maintenance is forward action and moving and changing and improving. Just my observations and thoughts. And maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. But it doesn't mean we can't continue to change and make some verbiage changes or amend some kind of our property maintenance code that we've accepted. If we need to add a little, hey, we need to, instead of saying habitable, say passable, or, you know what I mean? Like, I'm down with that.
Pass or fail.
Yeah, something.
Rid of structural
Well,
sound.
and kind of picking up a little what Nick said, so our complaint-driven form, are there regulations that the complaint must come from a village resident or something of that nature?
Yes.
Yes, it has to come from police.
So if the interior complaint came from the Humane Society,
Why are we doing it?
The building actually was open all the way to the inside that you could see from the outside, the whole.
okay, so if the hole's patched,
From the exterior,
then,
But that's also, it's a fine line, because it's a governmental office saying, hey, you know, there's bugs, there's this. We
right,
have
but
to,
does our
you know,
policy allow for the,
So basically, what the Humane Society did, they went in to take their animals, and they found out how bad this place was, so they passed all this on, but with whatever was in there was obviously an infestation hazard, so even though it wasn't a resident reporting it, it was a county agency reporting it, we're required to act on that.
well, if we may want to check and make sure that verbiage is in our complaint form.
do too much.
Pretty bad, the International Department of Maintenance has most of that stuff in there, so, yeah.
I think he's asking about the complaint form.
Yeah.
Well,
In
we
the
followed
village.
this, the form itself, it just tells you who it is and whatever.
So we have a policy that it must be complaint driven, right?
By a resident.
By a resident. Then I don't see how a county's complaint can
Well,
be
there
looked
was
at.
complaints from residents as well in
On the
relation to
outside,
that.
but
Yes.
not the inside.
But,
Not the
But
inside.
our property maintenance, I don't want to go into drama, but the property maintenance code states inside and outside. We only received our photos from the inside from the
I
county.
believe,
But then we could see inside the house because the whole, in things, there
and
was
you can correct me
no,
if I'm wrong, Terry, but one of the complaints was an infestation complaint.
yes, one of them was the infestation, and that's why, the inside was, you know, that and not having it structurally sound where they could.
So, yeah, we'll talk about that and
Waterproof,
see kind of maybe what kind of protective equipment we need to go in the house that was, had an infestation. And I don't want to just get thrown in my shorts and flip-flops. You know,
Right. That's,
I mean, I worked here on trauma for 8-9 years, and I've had situations where I didn't have time to prepare, but, if I can.
So to be clear, because the county complained about the interior, and a village resident, or 3 or 4, complained about the exterior, our follow-up should only be on the exterior, because that's where the village residents. Is that what I'm understanding?
I just
Not
figured that
necessarily.
Humane Society fell up on the inside.
That's what we're.
well, yeah, that's, and what like Nick, I'm thinking that if the Humane Society has an issue with the interior, that should fall on them or a county agency. Our zoning policy states, so this is, one of my huge pet peeves is anything that even looks like the good old boy system, right? So in my mind, what we're doing is we're picking and choosing what we're doing for people, particularly with this property maintenance. And it's not right, okay? Our policy states that the complaint must come from a resident. That's it, that's all. anything outside of that, we're not doing our jobs, in my opinion, and we're not doing it right. You know, we as council persons and employees of the village agree to abide by the code, irregardless of who they are, who we know, whatever. We abide by the code. That's all that matters.
Now, I don't, then, to that effect, I don't mind going around and making sure there's not holes from the inside to the outside, if that was the complaint, or the sidings, you know, whatever it is. If that was the original complaint from a village resident, then I think we should draw it up differently. I'll go inspect that, not worry about the inside, because if they want to live in an infestation, or
That's their business.
if they have a dirty house and they want to live like that, or if it's clean, they want to live like that. I think they've done a great job so far, just by driving around, cleaning up that area.
Absolutely.
So I do want to thank them for that, but I don't want to dig too much into it if they're happy with how, that's, I mean, like I said, his way of how he lives compared to mine is different. Now, you walk through my house at the main level, you wouldn't know I'd have kids, because you know, that's how it is. You walk in the basement or the kids' bedroom, I don't know what's in there. You know what I mean? It's just, I close their doors because I'm a first floor master.
Bags of Doritos.
Yeah, so I tell my kids, if you want to live like that, that's fine. But I hate for someone to come in my house and say, your kid's a mess, he's got chips under his bed, you know, and when I write you up. You know what I mean? I don't know. That's just how I am.
And I agree with what Jeff was saying too, because I think, in my mind, that if there's a complaint about an interior problem, it's not going to be me going to Carrie's house and seeing her house is in disarray and complaining as a resident. I think that's gonna fall under going into like your subways and stuff like this.
I think we could read into, since we passed the whole code, I think we need to read into it on the interiors, on
Yeah.
multi
Man, agencies
agency.
outside the village.
It might spell it out there, I don't know.
Let's look at it this week, like I said,
Yeah.
I didn't want to go in there this month and violate any kind of code or their privacy or
Yeah, I agree.
our liability for the village just to get it done. So, sorry, I didn't get it done, but I just think there's a lot
I think
to
it's,
dive into going to an interior structure where, you know, my first thought is if it's a village complaint system and we're inspecting interiors, it's gotta be better than what the village is doing. But I looked through the code, I couldn't find anything.
I think that's probably gonna fall under more of your commercial structures and stuff like that. We're not complaint driven, when somebody goes in and sees the
So we'll look into it this
working
week.
places.
I will take ownership of this one though. I don't want you to pass it on to Rod or anyone else. I'll finish it up. It was given to me in my month. I just want to make sure, from a village standpoint, legally, we're doing the right thing and liability and safety for the constituent and the village and our council members.
Then just let me know what you find out, that way I can write up their finalization
All right.
or whatever.
That's all I had. Sorry that took long.
Anything
No, I
else?
think it's good.
Anything else in department meetings? Okay. Old business. Old business.
Is that where my resolution comes on? We passed a resolution for prostate cancer.
Oh, no,
No,
it's the
sorry, the resolution R4 2021.
water fund is the old business.
Your water fund is your business.
I don't have an agenda or a water fund.
It was given to you guys 3 months ago, this will be our third reading.
I can bring it to them.
Yeah.
It's in this stack of work. So this is the third reading of
Thanks, Suzanne.
the ordinance to create a water reserve and debt service fund, whereas the legislative authority deems it necessary to separate water fund expenses, whereas the legislative authority would like to create a water debt service and reserve fund, whereas the legislative authority would like to move $126,000 into the reserve fund and $75,000 into the debt service from the water fund. Whereas the legislative authority will separate all water revenue, $33 per tap monthly to go into the debt service fund to cover debts, with remaining revenue to stay in the water operating fund. Whereas the legislative authority also deems it necessary to set forth guidelines in using reserve fund money. The money can be used for projects with restrictions of all money has to be paid back in a timely fashion, which is 12 months. Now therefore let it be ordained by Village of Amanda, Ohio, that the village legislative authority does hereby create a water reserve fund and debt service fund, as well as moves $126,000 from water fund to reserve fund and $75,000 from water fund to debt service fund. In addition, sets forth the debt service and reserve fund requirements mentioned above. The ordinance shall be in effect and be in full force from and after the earliest period allowed by law. So this would be the third reading of that?
The sewer's been set up that way for a long time, because we never had enough accumulation in there to separate, to go ahead and do the initial separation, since payments have come out at different times of the year, and we finally build it up enough to where we can do the separation.
Will any of, this is kind of with it, kind of not with it, will any of this separating the funds or emergency funds or anything else ever come to effect where we won't get a 3% raise every year on water bills?
No, that's been set for years. The only time that we have not done the 3%, like for the COVID or if we put the water tower in, we had to raise rates significantly, or put the plant, we haven't done the 3% during those years.
I don't know if any of that would help with that. I just get a lot, I know, being in the village, I get a lot
The
of
3%
questions.
is basically operating funds, it does, but.
A lot of those catching up with
no.
car payments.
And if people take the Ohio EPA Water 360 or something class, it explains why there's,
Our debt alone for the water is almost $150,000 a year that we pay out just for the water tower and the water plant.
Yeah.
So, and those are 30-year loans, so by the time they're done, we're gonna be building a new one probably, so, eventually, but no, the 3% is for operating costs.
No, it makes sense. I just didn't know if anything was factored in.
It's just, the only thing it is just taking it, instead of it all paying out of one, I'm gonna specify, it's gonna be divided and specified, that way I don't have to ever worry about,
Maintenance.
well, if spending, we end up having a big project, we're not taking the debt service money, we're not taking, that type of thing. This way it's separated into a thing, separate.
I have a question for you. I think what you just said was great, about how much debt goes out every year for the water and the sewer. And like Nick, most of the comments I get when I'm chatting with neighbors or whatnot is, I always ask, is there anything you want me to bring up? And it's always, why is the water so damn high? So is there any information like on the website or anything?
When we do our
that
budget every
explains-
year, it breaks it down. It talks about 150 of it's going out for debt service.
I know.
About 200,000 or 300,000 just to operate the plant.
Okay. Now-
And you have a small community of 325 water bills to try to cover all of that debt that's.
No, I don't think most people are gonna go look at the budget. I just thought, I didn't know if there was a PDF or something online, just a little explanation.
It
This
is on
why.
our website. It's
Okay.
got all that broke down. I have
Okay,
it
great.
all there for them to look at.
Perfect.
Plus, we were also trying to save for doing property or, for any other infrastructure projects, we have to save for those to do our portions as
Well,
well.
no, that's good. I can tell them if somebody asks, why is the water so high?
Yeah.
Hey, there's a thing on the website, go check it out, it explains it
Just
all.
give the Shari's phone number.
thanks.
All my neighbors already have her phone number.
Yeah.
All right, back to the record of ordinance.
All right.
The ordinance to create a water reserve and debt service. Is there any action on this third reading?
Do we need a vote or a
Yes.
motion? or- oh.
You need to vote to accept.
Or deny it.
So, do we need a motion then?
Yes.
Motion to accept this.
Yes.
I make a motion to accept what Shar read.
The ordinance to create a water reserve and debt service.
I'll second.
I'll sign it.
I got it, it hasn't been all.
All in favor?
All in favor? All right.
Thank
Give me
you.
that time.
It is. I haven't set it yet.
Well, the trail, the barbecue booth, that-
Next is the resolution R4 2021.
Yeah.
A resolution extending the general engineering service contract with Hull and Associates. Whereas the Village of Amanda has previously executed a general engineering service contract with Hull and Associates dated June 10, 2019, and whereas the previously executed contract term was from July 1st, 2019 to July 1st, 2021, and whereas the previously executed contract allows an extension of services, and whereas the Village of Amanda intends to continue to utilize Hull and Associates for engineering and surveying services. Now therefore, be it resolved by the Council of Village of Amanda, Section 1, the general engineering services contract with Hull and Associates be extended from July 2021 through July 1st, 2023, under the previously approved terms and conditions of the contract. This is that this resolution shall take effect and be enforced from and after the earliest period allowed by law. Is there any action on this resolution?
As a resolution, do we need to read it 3 times, or can we make a motion to waive those
You
readings?
can make a motion.
You can make a motion to waive the 3 readings, and I would suggest that you do that on this
Yeah.
particular thing.
Alan,
Alan, I'll tell you what,
And Hall.
I've worked with a lot of engineers, guys, and I'm gonna be honest with you, Alan Brown is top notch. He does, anything he does, he talks to you, he doesn't just come in with an attitude to, hey, I'm smarter than you. He
Yeah,
listens
easy
well,
on the eyes,
he
too.
listens to our things, he's very good to work with, very good.
I'd like to make a motion then that we waive the 3 readings and accept the motion as written.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Who seconded it?
He did.
Okay.
All in favor?
Sign, approve.
Unanimous.
Where do I sign on approve? Next, I have,
Well, wait a minute. They now have to pass it. They've only waived the 3 readings, now they have to actually do the,
he said he combined the motion for.
oh, you combine.
I said and accept.
And accept, okay, I didn't hear that.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
Next, we had already, last year, I was happy to have September as Prostate Cancer Awareness. As you know, I have a dad, and he's a veteran, and this proclamation discusses how men who served in the military that have been exposed to chemicals are at higher risk. I just felt like it was close to my heart, and council had already approved of this, but every year they will ask for it unless we make it accepted as forever and ever and ever, September is Prostate Awareness Month in the Village of Amanda.
So I have modified what I gave you, instead of it saying 2020, which was wrong anyways, to say each year for September.
I have a point of order there.
No, you're fine. I'm done. Last
Please get
year.
to business.
Oh, thank you for bringing that to my attention. I thought we were all.
That's going well, council.
We'll go back.
And then it's signed by the,
I don't have an agenda, so.
Okay,
Well,
so it went to committees, and then I thought the committees were down to old business, and I thought old business was to the waterfront, and then new business was the proclamation of property. If you got more business, we'll get to it, just have it, this is just per item.
My bad, I messed up.
So go ahead.
So, September is Prostate Awareness and Education Month. As of 2020, I am looking to see if we would be interested in making it forever and ever, every year. September is Prostate Awareness Month.
What action needs to be taken?
Somebody would like to move on that?
it's not a resolution, it's just a proclamation, but you guys,
So I don't need to move?
you guys can, it could be a mayor proclamation, or it could be.
Okay, it's a mayor
council.
proclamation, we're gonna make every September Prostate Awareness Month. Thank you for that education, I like it.
Or you
when
guys
say,
can go
I
as
did
a
it.
council, so.
It's done now.
And we move on to new business.
I have nothing, sir.
We just want to make sure you was wearing Okay, I got the bills in my hand, you guys can.
Nice.
Make a motion to pay the bills. I'll make a motion. Second.
I'm for it. Are you gonna do a vote?
Yeah, all
All in favor?
There we go.
Someone make a motion to adjourn, we're done.
So moved.
Nice.
Second,
All